What a delight it is to have Shireen Radigan back on the Liberated podcast to talk about the amazing work that she is doing in South Florida. Shireen has been on the podcast a couple of times before. She is the founder of Colossal Academy in Fort Lauderdale. She's a former public school teacher, private Montessori teacher who, like so many education entrepreneurs, created a pandemic pod during COVID that led to a full-fledged microschool, Colossal Academy. And she also is the co-founder, along with Tony Floriciardi, of InEd, the Innovative Educators Network in South Florida, which, as you say, Shireen, is the renaissance of educational innovation. And Tony and Shireen have been on the podcast as well before, talking about grassroots efforts to build community around education innovation and expand learning options for families. And Shireen is back on the podcast today to talk about sort of growth initiatives of going from being a microschool founder and obviously this sort of curator and facilitator of grassroots education entrepreneurship in Florida, but also as an individual entrepreneur moving from one school to a much larger, bolder vision for education transformation. And so Shireen recently created a franchise network for Colossal throughout Florida, where people are able to use the Colossal model and curriculum in their own communities. And she's also launched Colossal Online to reach even more students and families with highly individualized education offerings. So, Shireen Radigan, welcome back again to the Liberated Podcast.
Thank you so much, Kerry, for having me. I love what you do. I mean, anybody watching this can appreciate so much of what you're doing, and just making sure you document our stories and making sure that we have exposure to what we're doing. And thank you again for holding this space and having me on the show today.
Well, it's always such a treat to talk with you. I'm always inspired by everything that you're doing individually, as well as what's happening collectively in South Florida. Again, with you having a lot to do with that as well, and kind of creating that community and that space for education entrepreneurs to feel empowered to launch their own education solutions. So I thought we might start today, Shireen. We've talked in the past about what motivated you to create Colossal Academy to begin with, and kind of the evolution of the pod into a microschool. But let's start with why did you decide to scale from running one school to more? To a franchise model, and now to Colossal Online, which again is poised to be even larger and have much greater reach. So what was that push toward expansion for you?
Yeah, so my journey into entrepreneurship was really organic. I've really spent a lot of time making sure that every step that I take really felt comfortable. I use a lot of intuition when I'm making decisions. I'm not very logic based, which is probably not what people want to hear as far as on the business side, but that's how I run things. I really feel things in my gut. And so what happened was, we had 4 students and then 10 students, and then I could hire someone, and I created a job for somebody else that was their dream job. And that was so inspiring to me to see that I could unlock something not only for students, but that teachers could also have a place. And as we grew, I was creating more jobs, and every time it was like this evolution of like freedom and liberation for the person that was working. And that made me understand that there's more work here that needs to be done beyond what I can handle in my tiny little 1,263 square foot school, but that there's work outside of my school that needs to get done. The other thing is, when you're starting a micro school, starting from scratch is amazing, and people should do that if that is what your heart tells you to do. But there's so much that goes into creating that I felt like some of it is lost energy, like figuring out exactly your chroma code in the middle of the night, and what exactly is your logo color is going to be, and exactly what font you're going to use. It takes a tremendous amount of effort, and when we could be using that time to do other things like spending with students or relaxing and resting, right? And so I really wanted to make sure that it was something that people could take on, have supports, not need to do a lot of heavy lifting that I had to go through. There's a lot of beautiful lessons that we learned. Some of them are painful and some are really gorgeous from the offset. But yeah, that was kind of the inspiration. And then from that, I found a need for there to be online so that we could reach beyond Florida. My focus is Florida. I want to make sure that there's a Colossal Academy in every county in Florida. We're an ESA state. I want to make sure families here have choices. And I think Colossal's an excellent choice. And I want families to be able to make that choice. But then, people from out of state were wanting to participate or wanted a piece of the Colossal experience. And I knew I could do that because I had done it previously with the pandemic pod and having online classes. And so I just kind of went back to my roots, which was our genesis of starting in the first place, which was doing online really well. And so it's been really exciting to create classes again and experiences for families and children.
Okay, so let's dig deeper into the sort of online experience, because if I recall from our previous conversations about building Colossal in its kind of early iteration as a pod, you were driving around to different families' homes, dropping off kind of Montessori-inspired manipulatives and content, so that then you could all be participating together with some tangible materials while you were working collaboratively online. How does that look in Colossal online now in this sort of more mature version?
Sure. So the classes themselves that we've created, the curriculum that we've developed is really a beautiful experience for folks. So today, for instance, we've been talking about personal branding, and they've been looking at celebrities and their brands, and we're making it super relevant so that it's people that they know and they aspire to be like. And so from that, we're going to be building our own personal brand by researching, right? And so, and we do it in public forums so that we can have conversations and Socratic dialogue between each other. But also we're using relevant skills. So they're designing in Canva, excuse me, not Canvas. They're designing in Canva. They are learning how to use all the Google platforms so that they can go on to have meaningful skills that are going to bridge beyond just rote memorization for test taking, but that they can actually bring these skills. They can learn how to create a business plan. They're going to learn how to, right now we're talking about fashion and fast fashion and the industry and how to be sustainable, not only financially, but also you can create a fashion line that can be sustainable and use sustainable products. And so we're really trying to make it as relevant, up to date, problem solving as much as possible, questions that they're actually going to have to answer as adults that we're leaving the planet with, or their generation is actually going to have to question, and then they have to practice it now. We're moving into a digital workforce. Everybody is online now. How do you be a digital citizen online? How do you show up for the workplace if it's online? If we can't practice it now, they're not going to have the skill set to move on beyond. Our hope is a seamless transition to adulthood. So as they take online work and show up online and become who they need to be and work in collaboration across teams. And so we're practicing that now, and it's really exciting.
So how does it work in practice, Shireen? I know entrepreneurship is a big priority for you and for the Colossal model, certainly a big part of the in-person microschool in Fort Lauderdale and of your franchisees. And it sounds like that same entrepreneurial focus is key for the online curriculum. But take us through, what would a typical week experience be like for a student? Are they participating synchronously, asynchronously, meaning is it at the kind of set times each day, or are they doing things on their own? Are there live lessons over Zoom? What is that like? What is the curriculum that they're actually getting? Tell us a little bit more about the structure.
Yeah, so it depends on the family. I wish there was like one typical arrangement, but we really try to make sure that it's working for the family. So some students are asynchronous, and that works just fine. We have a platform that offers the core subjects from 6th grade to 12th grade. We partnered with ASU Prep to make sure that we could offer the credits that are necessary for students to graduate, either as a homeschooler or as a whatever kind of schooler you want to be. Additionally, we do have live teachers who have office hours, and these teachers are dynamic and alive and love their subject matters and are passionate about teaching. And that took a while. That took some time and energy and effort to find the right fit of teachers that really love their jobs. And that's, for us, the passion comes through the screen. So each core subject has 2 hours of live instruction at this time, but some families opt to not go to live instruction. We have office hours. Students can attend an office hour with an instructor. And then there are asynchronous learning opportunities, as well as in group and in group learning opportunities. So some of the classrooms are mixed age, and some are really sixth grade. Everybody there happens to be the same age, and it really just depends on the family and what their needs are. And so we really try to make sure that if you want a full course load, which we have families that are fully enrolled in all of the classes, and we have some families that are choosing to utilize the a la carte menu and I just need math, or I just need supports. And this comes a lot from the homeschooling families that really, I just need math. I can't do math anymore. I don't want to learn math. And then families that are doing this really beautiful colossalized classes that we have in microschools are picking up some of the classes as well, to make sure that they have everything they need without having to have the extra HR and have to hire a lot more staff, right, with less promise. So it's working out for all people.
The colossalized classes. I absolutely love that. So tell us a little bit more about your partnership with ASU Prep Digital. Listeners and viewers will know that I'm a big fan of ASU Prep. My oldest daughter, who's always been homeschooled, took a full suite of high school classes online through ASU Prep and really enjoyed them. How are you working with them? How does that fit into the kind of colossalized class work?
Yeah. So what's really great is I actually think ASU Prep and the way that they've written their curriculum is really closely aligned to some of the principles that we hold. So it wasn't a far leap to actually, we really value depth in learning. What we have done, though, is we break up the curriculum to stop and pause when we can, and have an AI tool and lesson that is colossalized, right? So we're bringing it to life. So if you're learning algebra, your teacher is going to create a project for you. We stop for a week. We have a project, and that is really aligned with like hard questions, great essential questions, bringing it to the real world, as much place-based as possible when there's opportunities to bring your curriculum out into the environment, and or bring your community to us, right? Like we could problem solve together. And then we hop back onto the ASU. So every 4 weeks, we halt the ASU, like kind of that, formatted class, and we hop onto a colossalized project that directly aligns with what they've learned so far. And so we're able to turn it into practical uses. Again, building an arsenal of skills that they're going to be able to utilize beyond AI, having access to AI and how to prompt and how to receive the information you need to has been really great. We've partnered with Pathfinder to make sure that every one of our students has access to generative their beautiful platform, which is project-based. And yeah, so the teachers know how to make it come alive.
I love it. So it sounds like you're using these various platforms like ASU and Pathfinder, which you mentioned is a new emerging AI tool. And yet you have your colossal teachers who are the sort of special sauce, right? So you're leveraging these other curriculum resources, but it's your colossal online educators that really make the difference. That's sort of your comparative advantage.
I think so. And any teacher could use any textbook, right? And then it's
Yeah.
you that
Yeah.
creates the experience for the child. So I kind of think of ASU as our textbook, and then our teachers who are like, bring that world to life and have great questions to ask. I was listening in today on social studies, and we were learning about the amendments, and I was like, why are sixth graders learning? And he was able to arch it into like Roman history, and it was just really beautiful to watch it. It wasn't anything in the ASU prep specific. It was his knowledge and his understanding that we need to make it relevant, and we need to excite them, and we need to hook, give them the hook to be interested in reading more. it's just fun to watch as I'm like, oh, that's great. It's so fun to watch my colleagues, because at this point, they're my colleagues, thrive in what they're doing.
Tell us a little bit more about your colossal teachers, Shireen. What is attracting them to this online space, to unconventional educational models more generally? How are you recruiting them and why are they coming?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are leaving the traditional classroom. There's a lot of, I mean, safety is with recent events, it highlights safety concerns and what we're needing to battle within our classroom. That's one thing. I also think, we pay very well at Colossal because we're professionals and we deserve to be paid very well. But more than that, I think it's, I talk about this a lot, but there's a sacredness to what we do. There's a calling to discovery and matching a student with unlocked potential, right? And that a really good teacher is a cheerleader and a coach and a mentor and a discipline as far as understanding their discipline, a knowledgeable person. And so the magic of that is bringing that all together and being able to like adapt to a child's needs. It's just an incredible opportunity. And so I also think from the teacher's aspect, it's like finally a space where I get to just be my professional self, bring joy, and it's okay. I don't have to have dominance over students in order to have a classroom that's efficient and productive. That we can have a classroom that's joyful and sparks laughter, and that learning happens in those spaces as well. So I think it's a lot of freedom to be your professional self. I think it's paying people well enough to ask them to be their professional self at the highest level. And I also think, the safety concerns are really, they're major for people, and they don't want to go into classrooms anymore where they feel like they need to, be a barrier for people.
Yeah, and so at a practical level, Shireen, are you using kind of online recruitment tools? How are you finding educators?
Yeah, so Vela Network is amazing. We've put out into the Mighty Networks and asked them, hey, if anybody knows any online teachers, I would love to keep it within, because we already have kind of we have a similar, there's the undercurrent that's very similar, which is like the love and caring and understanding of children, that I think all Vela recipients have. Of course, we use like Indeed and some of the regular online recruitment tools. Facebook groups, word of mouth. We've kind of, we post on our website and I put on social media, we're hiring. We got a tremendous amount of applicants, and we really had to, I wasn't expecting that side. I was expecting for us not to have, and then we're going to have to make some compromises. But really, we were able to do the opposite, like an overwhelming response for teachers looking for online teaching or to work at a place like Colossal Academy. And then we had to make some decisions about like, okay, what is a colossal teacher? What does it take to be in a colossal space, right? And so that was a beautiful question to have to answer.
So what about students and families, attracting them? You touched on this a bit by saying, you might have a homeschool family that just wants sort of a la carte math curriculum that they'll take through Colossal Online. Other families might want a more comprehensive curriculum and a degree at the end, a diploma at the end. How are you finding families, and what do these families want from Colossal?
Yeah, at this point, we had such a large initially we had such a large wait list that I was like, I can't offer you anything else. We can offer you online now, right? So a lot of our families are actually the ones that we just, our wait list, they were on a wait list. And so that was part of it. Just sending it through the networks, letting people know, hey, we're online now. Social media has been really great. LinkedIn, really great for letting families know. And just like I've always done, just community partnership and talking to people and letting people know. It's really been organic at this point, in getting the word out and going live and letting people know that we're live now. Not only are we serving Colossal, our franchisees, but we have other micro schools that have decided to take on some classes. So we're able to help them fill that in. And I think we've just been like organically growing, talking about it. And I don't want to grow too fast,
Yeah.
too quickly, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But
So too big, too quickly, it's not good for me.
I think that's so interesting, though, that you were at capacity for your in-person microschool and said, well, I don't want to just leave these families high and dry. How else can I serve them? And then you, of course, being the entrepreneur that you are, build a solution for these families. And again, you sort of touched on this, but I'd love to dig deeper into, sort of the benefits and drawbacks of online learning, right? So many of us during COVID, when school shut down and learning went online, might have sort of some PTSD from that
Mm-hmm.
experience of being online. Other families discovered they really liked online learning. Tell us a little bit about sort of the benefits and drawbacks, and maybe how you are managing kind of those much needed social interactions, and facilitating that within the context of online learning.
Yeah. So, students, young people now and adults, they have online communities as it is, right? Like they are interacting socially. So we're trying to mirror some of those, right? So that we're doing a response and call and a discussion in the way that you would, which teaches digital citizenship, and you got to show up online like you would in person, right? I think that it gives so much more flexibility and time for families who want to do so many other things, right? I have athletes who are training for their sport, and this works so well because they need to go to school. It's compulsory, so they need to go to school. It fulfills what they need, and it's really good school. And then they're able to do what they want. I have high schoolers right now that work. Some of them have to work because their family needs help, right? And some of them are working for whatever reason in their vocation, going into trades or whatever it looks like. So it offers that flexibility to still do what you need to do with online schooling and follow your passions, right? So that you can continue to build your skill set outside of schooling. And then we have other learners who have special needs and need a little bit more hand holding and really need someone to be able to sink in, speak to them kindly. Like it's just some of the traumas around math for a lot of students. We just don't, we're not patronizing that. We're going to continue to remind people that they're perfect and special and they're exactly where they need to be. And we can understand why you wouldn't have gotten that right because, yeah, that makes sense, right? So just validating people who might have some trauma around math or any subject really. And yeah, so I think the biggest benefit really is allowing families to have more time together, more flexibility, more freedom to go out and pursue all kinds of different uh, uh, activities. We have students again, sports, we have equestrian kids, we have the whole gamut of people. So I really think it offers that like flexibility that they need
Yeah, and I
to
think what
pursue.
models like Colossal Online are doing, Shireen, is helping people to see that kind of the standard way of approaching schooling is antiquated, right? That we can sort of unbundle curriculum and instruction from other ways of approaching education. So in this case, your learners can get their content through Colossal Online. They can interact with these incredible teachers online, pick and choose the kind of models that they want, whether it's full-time or part-time and so on. And then they can be out in the community doing other things, right? So that I think we have this sort of notion that school sort of this all-in-one package, right? Like that's where your friends are, that's where your extracurriculars are, that's where your teaching and learning is. And what you're doing with Colossal, both at the micro school level and online, is saying, no, 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 like there are so many more ways of approaching this. Do you think that that's right? That's sort of we're moving into this next
Spot on.
generation?
It's spot on. And I think that, the traditional learning model is industrial and we're beyond the industrial era. So what does it look like moving into the future? What is the classroom of 2050? What does that look like? And my projection and my hope is really that we're going to be in nature a lot more. We're going to be working a lot less hours and be living in passion and joy and more fulfilled. Our tagline, "The future is bright," is really what I believe. I really truly believe that the young people now are gonna, sorry, my eyes are watering. It's pollen season. So that the young people now are going to be answering questions and coming up with solutions that are just whole and human and kind, and kind to the earth and kind to people. And I can see a future where that we're in harmony with nature, that we're not in combat, right? Like we figured out a solution of how to get all the plastics out of the ocean, right? And that we've come up with solutions for to make sure everybody's off of the streets and has a home, and that everybody's warm and has food. I really truly believe that. And I think that if we're depending on the industrial model to bring that in, then it's gonna fail, right? Like I think we need a new model of schooling that mirrors what I think is going to be the future, which is a lot more autonomy and freedom and time and passion and focus and nature. And so we have to build it. We have to build the school that goes with that.
It's almost like you're saying, Shireen, that online learning is actually going to make us more connected to the physical world.
Totally, because you have more time. You get to
Yeah.
leave. You're not stuck on a computer all day. You leave and you go outside and you garden after your class is done, right? I've done more gardening since the pandemic than I ever have in my entire life, right? And that was just because like what I needed to get done was done in 4 hours, and I can go out and play and be in my garden and be with my children and with generative AI, like it's a whole other ballgame. We won't need to spend as much time being productive, right? And being more passion focused, because we can get things done in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah. And so some of it is addressing sort of seat time requirements and attendance requirements. I know that there are some virtual schools often connected to district schools or to sort of statewide public virtual schools where students are still expected to kind of be at the computer as though it's just school and now they're at home at the computer. And it's so limiting, from your experience of being able to say, no, this is a tool. This is not the whole of your education. And it can be so much richer for learning and teaching when we use online learning as a tool, but aren't sort of forcing kids to be, sitting at, again, a desk, looking at a screen for several hours every day.
And we're prompting that too. We're
Yeah.
prompting you. What in your community is reflective of this? Go do it. Go take pictures. Go experience things. If it's possible, it's always like an option, right? Like some families don't have the mobility in that way, but some do. And so if it's an option to go to a museum, great. Let's do that. Let's enroll our experiences in what we're learning, and let's bring relevance to what we are learning. And so in our projects, it's often very community focused. So if you can't be out in your community, in your church or your sports group or your girl group or your knitting group, whatever groups you belong to, then online communities are also, like how do you contribute to Roblox, and how do you speak mindfully in spaces, and how do you show up in these places? And those are options for outcomes of what we're learning. It can't just be a test. You learn some stuff, you take a test. You learn some stuff, you take it. No, it's you learn some stuff. Now, what can you do? How can you transform that to be useful to yourself by generating wealth, or useful to other people by solving a problem, right? In your communities. And my community is different from your community. And so my community outputs are going to be different than your community outputs. And aren't those amazing? That just from this one prompt, you were able to serve the community in this way, and I was able to serve my community in this way, and let's show these to each other. And we grow that way. That's how you grow. That's how you learn more. I never thought to do a mural. I bet we could do a mural. That's a great idea. Let's do a mural. Or, ooh, that would not work in my neighborhood. And let's talk about that. Why wouldn't that work in your neighborhood, right? There's an initiative to all of those kind of conversations come about that deepens the learning. And I feel like the academics are the launching pad. It's not even the end result is now algebra. It's now algebra, and what do you do with it? It's not enough to just know it to take a test. There has to be something that you're going to do with that is going to serve you or other people. And so that's really what we're asking colossal families and children to do, is to take their learning and make it meaningful.
Spoken like a true math teacher, right,
I
Shireen?
know. Algebra, it's the best subject in the world, you know? Yeah.
Totally. Um, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about financial accessibility. Starting with sort of what is the tuition for Colossal Online, and are there ways in which our education policy, particularly education savings accounts and new school choice policies across the US, are making models like yours more accessible to more families?
Yeah, so we at Colossal in general, we are one of our core values is accessibility. Just that is a core value of ours. So we are interested in making sure that every type of child gets this kind of education. So our price point is super accessible. Again, it depends on the family. It all just, I can't tell you what an endpoint for every single person would be, but we do take ESA funding in Florida, New Hampshire, Arizona. So we do belong to those voucher programs, and those are really where we're trying to focus right now, just to make sure that families don't need to come out of pocket to support this kind of learning. And so yeah, and again, the price points are super affordable, and for us, it's to be able to have great conversations and to really approach things from different parts of the world even, and have an outcome that's so different just because you're in a different geographic location. But yeah, we are ESA compliant here in Florida, and Arizona and New Hampshire right now. Those are our current states.
Great. So families are likely able to attend tuition free or nearly tuition free, or they're able to use Colossal Online as one educational provider within that kind of larger ESA funding that enables them to curate their own ideal educational experience for their kids. So great to see that you're part of that larger ecosystem of education options across the country, and really building what families want. And so, as we start to wrap up, I have kind of two final questions that I'd love for you to talk about. One is sort of the advice for parents, and one is sort of advice for founders. And let's start with parents. What would you say to parents who are maybe curious about other education options in their community? Maybe they are, starting to question sort of the one size fits all traditional model, aren't really sure where to begin or what to be looking for. What would you say to parents?
Well, I would tell them to look at your previous podcast because you do such a great showcase of that. Local communities taking a look at, even just microschool, following the news of what's happening in microschool. Wichita is incredible right now with making sure that people understand what their choices are. Obviously, Florida, we're doing a great job with visibility and making sure families understand. Um, asking questions, even if you ask a guidance counselor, because I feel like they know what's beyond. They're going to know what's beyond their classroom, their school experiences, and oftentimes they're wanting to find the best fit for children. That's what they do. That's their joy. Their joy is to make the connections happen and to see a child thriving. Checking in with libraries, looking at and different social media groups and asking questions, even if you have to do it anonymously, just to ask the question of like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And there's the community that you'll receive is so profoundly supportive, and you can ask just about any question and get somebody who's going to have a similar experience, or give you answers to think about, right? And different perspectives. So uh, just being in the different social media channels also help a lot.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I like your point about don't being afraid to even ask anonymously in some of these parenting Facebook groups or homeschooling Facebook groups, and just seeing what resources are there. Because I think so much of the time, families don't even know, parents don't even know what's in their backyard. And just being able to put a question out there, they might be surprised at what they discover. And then if they're lucky enough to live in Florida, they can connect with people like you and with Colossal, with InEd, and be tapped into that larger community, or microschoolflorida.com, and connect to various microschools that are emerging there. So But if that doesn't exist yet in their home state or their location, then, these Facebook groups can, I think, be really valuable in the short term. So then your advice for founders, Shireen, you've kind of done it all at this point, right? You created a pod, then you created a microschool, which is still incredibly successful, going strong. Then you scaled to a franchise model and now online. So you've basically done everything. What advice do you have for founders who also may be in the position you're in where they have a wait list, they have unmet demand that is, kind of at their doorstep. What recommendations do you have for them in thinking about growing?
Yeah, I think you really have to center yourself and knowing, do you want to expand this way or this way, right?
Mm.
Do you want to open a second location? There's beautiful challenges that come with that. And there are benefits to opening a second location, and there's benefits to just growing larger with it, getting a larger building and going to 150 students. So you just have to weigh those out. The larger you get, though, from my hypothesis, the reason we haven't gotten a larger building is you start to manage people. And that's what traditional ed has done for a long time, of like, you need to filter 100 people down the hallway, right? Like that changes what can be done when you stay micro. So and there's no judgment on that. If that feels like, okay, we could do that really well, that was not something I felt like I could do really well. I don't want bells at my school. I don't want a ticking time. I don't want all of that. And so that just didn't align with Colossal. But I think just really sitting with yourself and saying, okay, what are my reasons to scale? My reasons are to be able to reach more people that really want access to this kind of education. And then pursue that, right? And be super laser focused on what your goals are. And just be mindful that you're in community with other people, and make sure that your wake is something that people can talk about in a positive way. I like to think of my wake as being bioluminescent. I try to go through and leave some beauty behind me, right? So that's not like I'm plowing through other people to get what I need, but hopefully what's being left behind is beautiful too, right? So yeah, stay close to your values, don't lose that, and trust your gut, trust your intuition. I make so many decisions. All my decisions are actually gut based. Yeah, just follow that vision. It was given to you for a reason. Like, you're the one that's supposed to be executing that vision. And so just trust and believe that you'll find the people to help you if you can't do it yourself. And that it was gifted to you to follow through on.
I love that. Well, I hope that parents listening will want to connect with you, Shireen, and will want to find out more about Colossal Online and the amazing educational offerings you have. So if they are curious about that, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, you can go head to our website. When you go to colossal-academy.com, you can click the online, join Colossal Online, and all the information is right there, and the classes are listed. Starting in January, we're going to be launching even more Colossal classes. We're going to be taking a look at disruptive innovation and creating our own disruptive innovations. Sustainable living, and how to have a more eco-friendly home. And what else are we doing? Oh, so we're doing fashion and cultural experiences. So we're going to be taking a journey throughout the world and picking up information about people's culture and how do people express identity throughout the world. So super exciting. We'll be launching all of that in January. So another round of amazing Colossal classes are coming up.
And that website again is colossal-academy.com.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Shireen, always such a pleasure to talk with you and hear your new initiatives. Just amazing, the kinds of experiences you're creating in Florida and beyond. Wish you well with Colossal Online, and obviously with the franchise model and the microschool. And thank you so much for being on the LiberatED podcast.
Thank you, Kerry.